Hello, my name is Gabriel Alberro, and I am joined by Jazmin, Pedro, and Alejandro. Today, we will be discussing Realty Nexus, the unified property management platform. So, to give some background, I work as a property manager. In my field, we have a lot of different programs that we use that each have their own strengths and weaknesses. Some have great check printing capabilities, some have great accounting capabilities, some have great billing capabilities. The issue is I need to use different programs for different tasks. This increases the risk of human error because of the poor traceability between software. This violates core software principles such as cohesion and modularity. The idea of Realty Nexus is that we are going to consolidate all of those programs into one great program. Now I'm going to hand it off to Jazmin.
Thanks for the introduction. Our development process followed a structured 8-week agile model, which each sprint lasting 1 week. From the start, our goal was not only to deliver a working product, but to build one that was driven by real user needs and that could be verified with confidence. Here's how we broke it down. Sprint 1 focused on requirement gathering, designing our system architecture, and creating the user story backlog. Sprints 2 through 7 handled core development, from authentication and UI design to the accounting and document management modules, followed by the notification system, check printing, and finally the investor dashboard. Sprint 8 was dedicated entirely to testing, user acceptance testing, and documentation. A key takeaway here is that we prioritize features based on real-world operational value. Now let's talk about verification. We adopted a model-based verification strategy grounded in the framework from the textbook. Specifically, we focused on system-level testing where we validated full user workflows, not isolated units of code, to ensure the platform operated reliably from end to end. Each of our test cases follow a strict four-part structure. Stimulus, which is the user action, for example, click and generate invoice. The oracle, which is the expected system behavior, for example, a PDF is created and emailed. Observation, what the system actually did. And the verdict. All 9 system level test cases passed, and each was directly tied to a user story and diagram from our design document. In summary, our sprint plan gave us a predictable development structure, while our verification approach gave us confidence that every feature met its intended requirement. We stayed close to our proposed timeline with minor adjustments and were able to deliver a working, verified prototype by the final deadline. Now that we've seen how we validated the system from our requirements and testing perspective, Pedro will talk you through the back-end architecture and how it all comes together.
Hello, my name is Pedro Prieto, and today I will show some of the features of our app. The first thing that I want to show is the marketing page. This is the first page where users would see when they come to our page. And this just shows some of the features that we have and a call to action for the user to sign in or sign up. From here, the user have two options, either sign up or sign in if they already have an account. For this scenario, I will sign in since I have some of the data pre-populated for better showcasing. This is the first page that the users will see after they sign in, or this page is mostly analytics. And here you will see important metrics or KPIs that they might try to hit. For example, in the top left-hand side corner, we have all the properties that they have added, all the units. We have the occupancy rate, so if the units are vacant or in use. And we also have the monthly revenue, how much money this user is making off all the rentals. Below that, we have revenue trends, so how much money this user have made month by month, and we show the last 6 months. And that way the user can see if they're in an uptrend or a downtrend. In this scenario, in January, the user was making 4,000. Then in March, they increased the revenue, and then in April, they also increased the revenue. To the right, we have the vacancy rate, so how many of the units are vacant and how many of the units are in use or occupied. Finally, at the end, we have the top 10 most recent leases. In this table, we show all the upcoming leases that they might have, also recent leases that might have started a month ago or 2 months ago, and some important information about these leases. In this leases page, we have all the leases, There's not a lot of action that the user can take here, but we have some important information if they want to look into one specific list. For example, if we want to take a look into this specific list that from April 1, 2025 to April 1, 2026, we can see what the tenant is, the phone number of the tenant, the email of the tenant, status of the lease, and how much is the monthly rent for that lease. This tenant page is very similar to the leases page. There's not a call to action or actions that the user can take here, rather than just important information. For example, if they want to look up a specific tenant, or they want to see a history of a tenant, maybe they want to renew a lease, or a previous tenant want to come back and they want to see that history, right? They can come to this page, search for the tenant and click on it. They will see a lease history. So all the leases that this tenant have been a part of since added to the system, the lifetime revenue of this tenant, and all the leases that they have. Property page is where most of the features that we have are. In this specific page, we have a list of properties. So all the properties that the user may have added in the past. We also have an action for the user to take, which is to add a new property. If they haven't added one before, they want to add a new one. So adding a new property is a 5-step process. The first step, we ask for just basic information about the property, and mainly just naming the property and a description if they wish to provide one. The second step of this process is just the address of the specific building or property that they want to add. We'll also check against Google to make sure that this property is correct, that the address is correct, and the user didn't mistakenly put an incorrect address. In this third step, we ask the user for images. This can be images about the building. This can be images about the units themselves. They can add up to 5 images. In the first step, we have the units. So in this scenario, we have a property, a building. And in this building, you can have multiple units. You can have a unit in a floor, have a unit in the third floor. It just depends. For a house, you can also have multiple units. Maybe you have a guest house, etc. For this scenario, I'll add 2 units. So let's say first apartment 500 with a square footage of 2,000, 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. We'll also add apartment 600 with 2,500, 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Finally, this page is just about reviewing all the data that they have inputted into the system before, making sure everything is right and ready to be saved. Awesome, the new unit was added. When we come to a specific properties page, we'll see critical information about this property. We have all the units, all the vacant units, so how many units are not occupied, the lifetime revenue of this property. So if they have added 5 units throughout 10 years, this is all the revenue that they have made over those 10 years. And we also have active leases, how many leases are currently active. In the top right-hand side corner, we have monthly recurring revenue, which is how much money they're making off this property per month. We also have the vacancy rate, so how many of the units in this property are vacant. Some information here, we have the address, the description that they added, and the images. They can also remove the images or add new images if necessary. When we come
to the units, they can see all the units that they added. They can also add new units, and they can also add leases to this unit. If we take a look at the unit details, we can see the lease history, and this one does not have any available. But we can add the lease. So first, let's choose the start month. And then we can choose the end month. We make rent 2,500, and then security deposit 5,000. Let's choose a tenant for this example. And now we can add the lease. Now we can see that it is occupied since the lease is active. We can also see the history since now the lease is active. And we can see the tenants inside the history. We also keep track of the current lease, and we have a lease history in case they want to see the history. In the last tab, the users can add documents. These documents can be PDF, text documents, or Word documents. So for this example, let's add a file. It's uploading, and now we can see that the document is there and it is uploaded. If we go to the last tab, we can see that the document is there. And this page shows all the documents that have been uploaded to the system, in case they don't want to look through every unit lease and see the documents. We can see that we only have one document. We can see the property name, we can see the size, and we can see the date when it was uploaded. We can also view the file.
My name is Gabriel, and I'm going to be covering the contractors page on Realty Nexus. This contractors page has robust capabilities. Starting with the least of them, the search feature. As you can see, you could search for any company you would like. Next, I'm going to show you how to create a check on Realty Nexus. First, you have to click on New Check, input the company name, the amount you're going to pay, contact information, a memo, and the check number. You can choose whichever date you like, but today's date will be the default. And you could signify whether this is going to be a recurring or non-recurring payment. If it is recurring, you simply press check. Input the due date, that is going to be the calendar day of the month that you choose. And the frequency of this one will be monthly. We also have many other options. Now we're going to create. Our search feature also has the ability to show you all the recurring bills that you must pay. It also has an additional feature that shows you the bills that will be upcoming soon. To be an upcoming bill, the check must be due in 10 days. As you can see here, the check we created is in this list. To pay off one of these checks, all you need to do is press the print button. Once you have a bank check inserted in your printer, you simply need to print it out. To show you, I'm going to save this as a PDF and show you what it will look like once I have the check printed in. So let's save it. Let's open it in my little editor here. If you were printing on blank paper, this is what your check would look like. However, if you insert a bank check, you will get a result that looks like this. As you can see, all of the variables are placed very clearly on this check, simplifying the check writing process. The main limitation of this feature is that you, of course, will need a bank check. This is because in order to be a valid bank check, you need to buy checks from the bank with special security features. To finish off the features of this page, I'm going to show you the last small functionalities. If you make an error when creating a check, you could always edit it. I meant to write test company 12 here, for instance. Save it, and as you see, test company 12 is right here. When a check is due, you could create a new check very simply by pressing the pay button. This will create a new check. So this is going to be made out to test company 12 again. And I want it to stay as recurring. So all you have to do is add a check number and create. And here you go. This is the new check, and the old check is right here as paid. If you want to delete a check because you made an error or any other reason, simply press delete and it's gone. This was our contractors page, and as you see, it satisfied test cases TCO3, which is printing checks, and TCO5, which is monthly payee, and it also had many more features.
My name is Alejandro Rubio, and I'm going to cover invoicing, rent tracking, and notifications. For our payment system, we're using Stripe with their API for invoices and payments. If we go to the payments page, here we can see all the generated invoices. Some of them are paid, and some of them are open. Here we can also filter by status. Every time a new lease is created, the tenant will receive an email from Stripe with the invoice generated. As we can see here, we have generated invoice and it's open. Here we can view the invoice or download it. If we go to our email, we can see that we got an email from Stripe. Here we can pay the invoice. So we are going to use a test card from Stripe to simulate a successful payment. Here we can download the invoice or download the receipt. Now if we go back to the payments page and we refresh, we can see that the invoice was marked as paid. This was our payments page, and as you can see, it satisfied test cases TCO2, which is invoicing, TCO8, which is rent tracking, and TCO9, which is notifications.
Thank you again for watching our Realty Nexus presentation. Here are our sources.